Not sure why people can't enter.
Yeah, there's no one in there.
Second, let me quickly check.
There's only you and me in there.
Must be some issue because I'm receiving emails as well. So
Okay.
this has been acting up recently.
Yeah.
Must have people joining now.
There's two. I've still got two. How many have you got?
I think it'll be another 5 minutes. There's some setting from Zoom that's not letting them in for some reason.
Mm.
So just give me 1 second. Just because we had too many registrations for this, so to manually approve people.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. I think I've manually approved everyone now. And we do have participants in. Hello, everyone. We'll be starting very shortly. Please allow us 5 minutes time and we'll wait for people to join in. Then Alex will have the floor. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We'll be starting in the next 3 minutes, just waiting for everyone to join in. And then Alex will have the floor. Thank you for your patience, guys. We will be starting in the next 1 minute. Hello, everyone. My name is Aditya. I'm representing BenQ today. I work as the B2C technology marketing specialist at BenQ Australia. And I'll quickly get into the introduction of Alex, even though Alex needs very little introduction. But as we all know, Alex is the founder of Houndstooth Studio and is also a world-renowned photographer, and especially experting in pet, animal, and wildlife photography. Alex has won more than 350 awards for business, philanthropy, and photography, and was also the best canine photographer of in Australia in 2011 and 2013. Now I'll hand it over to Alex to start the webinar.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for joining us this afternoon, this evening, this morning, depending on where you're coming from. So first up, I've just got a very short introduction to BenQ monitors, why I use a BenQ monitor, what's beneficial about that, and then we're going to get stuck straight in to some live edits, which when we've done these webinars before have been really well received, because basically you get to see a little glimpse of how I edit, and hopefully there's some things in there that can help you if you're having some difficulty with the outcome of the photos that you want or editing. I can kind of show you how easy it can be. So let's kick off. Just going to make sure my screen share works. So firstly, I'm just going to share a little bit about me and what I do, talk about why I edit my pictures, the actual programs I use to edit my photographs, my style of editing, my rules for editing, and then the tools I use, and then as I mentioned, the live demo. So if you are new to Photoshop and new to photo editing, and you normally just go straight out of camera with your work, I'm going to show you how simple it can be. If you are more experienced, and some people are a lot more experienced out there in Photoshopping and editing than I am, you can then see how I work. So like I said, it's a little glimpse at what I do. On that, the way everyone edits is different, and there are lots of ways to do lots of different things to get the same result using these editing tools. So there's no right or wrong way. And I just want to make that really clear. Some people do things one way, some do them another way. As long as you get the result you want, don't let anyone tell you that what you're doing is the wrong way. So I've been a photographer now professionally for 15 years. I also coach people in business. Obviously love animals, so I do a bit of philanthropy work with animal rescue. I'm a brand ambassador, and I'm very proud to be a BenQ ambassador. Been using their products now for about 6 years. I do tours all around the world. I've got 7 books, 2 more coming out soon. I teach photography. I've got 2 dogs and a cat. Cat didn't get a mention there, just the dogs did. And I'm also the cleaner. When you run your own business, you do everything. You do the post, the mail, the editing, the photography, the sales sessions, and you also have to clean the rubbish bin. So I'm a bit of everything as far as that goes. So 9 times out of 10, you'll find me during the week in the studio photographing pets and wildlife. And then when I'm not in the studio, the 1 time out of 10, when I get to travel or I'm leading a tour, I photograph animals outdoors using natural light only. So one is an artificial light source in the studio, and one is just using the sun. They're very, very different types of photography. But you'll see as I show you a few samples of these images that my resulting photographs actually look quite similar in feel. Very kind of clean, minimalist backgrounds. Don't like man-made objects in them. I don't really photograph people, and I just kind of go for block colors in the studio and block colors or patterns if I can outdoors. I photograph about 1,300 animals a year in the studio. 1,000 of those are dogs. The rest are cats and rescue animals, etc., wildlife. And as I mentioned, I photograph wildlife outside. So in the studio, I'll photograph anything I can get my hands on. So here we have, domestic pets. In there as well, we have some rescue animals, a wombat, a bat, there's an owl, possum. I'll basically photograph any creature I can get my hands on. There aren't too many animals, certainly in Australia, that I haven't photographed in a studio. I've done a range of reptiles, insects, you name it. It's probably been in front of my lens in the studio. Outdoors, I also photograph anything. And again, these are the photos I'm mentioning. So some of these look like a kind of white or grey almost studio background, but they're just sky, pretty much, bright sky or overcast sky. And this was obviously in the Antarctic when I did a tour there about 8 or 9 years ago. These photos were in Sri Lanka. So here I've got some environments where I can't reduce grass, or particularly the elephant photo and the monkey image in the middle. the backgrounds were quite busy. So I've used that as like a repetitive pattern. The elephant photo, the grass is in the foreground and it kind of blends out a little bit. And I'll show you how you can kind of do that on Photoshop. The other images are far enough away from their backgrounds pretty much to just have it be a nice blurred out color. If your subject is in the grass like that monkey is, you see the grasses all over the monkey, grasses all around it. If the background is a fair way away from your subject, like the photo of the kingfisher, the first shot there, you can see the background's just blurred out kind of green pattern, very faded, kind of a few different colors in there, but it all blends nicely. And that's probably forest or riverbank trees that were probably a certain 100 meters or so behind that bird. And these are in the Galapagos Islands. And same again, very basic backgrounds if I can get them. That shot in the middle of the marine iguana, it looks like a dinosaur at the top. That there were hundreds of marine iguanas laying in that pile, and I laid down on the ground and just photographed against the sky. So that's how I was getting that bright white background. Straight underneath that at the bottom is a frigate bird. Same thing, bright white sky, just shooting up with the bird sitting on some navigational equipment. And I was able just to get a clean background and not get all the bit of the boat and navigational gear in there when it landed on our boat. The seal, that's the pattern of the water, and the bird above that, there's just kind of brown brush and trees and things that were behind that bird. So you can kind of get that minimalist feel, or I'll fill the whole frame like I have done with that seal photo, the second one there. The seal is filling the whole frame. And when I'm taking these photos, I'm actually thinking about what I want as an outcome as I'm shooting. So it sounds like a simple thing to do, but photography for me is mostly mental. And then it's timing and anticipation and the correct settings and all that stuff. But if I don't plan in my mind first what I'm going to capture, I'm not going to get it. And everything you see in your viewfinder is what you'll get in your resulting photo. So that photo of that seal all curled up there, filling the frame, there isn't a shot where there's a wider body of that seal. I actually zoomed right in and took that like that. The marine iguana with just the headshot, that's the photo I took. There isn't a full body photo of that same image where I've just cropped the head. So I'm very intent on trying to get what I want as in camera as much as I can. And I think that's a really important thing to stress, especially when it comes to editing, because there are great tools we can use like BenQ monitors to help us edit more efficiently. The fun bit for everyone though is taking the photos. So if we use the tools to make the editing faster and smoother, that's awesome. But if we can also get it as right in camera as we can, less time in the office having to edit pictures. So why do I edit? It's part of my self-auditing. And I'm going to go through in a second, show you some of my actual photos. Now, I don't know if I've thrown in a blurry one. I don't know what's in there. I just grabbed a bunch of pictures from random tours that I've done this year. And I'm going to go through and show you how I would pick from those, firstly, and select the images I want, and then how I edit them. Self-auditing for me, if it's not 100% sharp, I don't show it. So even if it's 95% okay, I'm like, I know that it's 5% blurry. I can't put it out there as a professional photographer. So, I mean, not that I take photos that are 5% blurry. No, I do. Sometimes I do, like everyone. Animals, subjects are moving, lights low. I might be too slow on my settings. I'm only human. I do take sometimes blurry photos. I edit to get the result I see in my mind's eye. So as I said, I try as hard as I can to do that in camera. So I'm using that camera as a tool to get that image that I'm seeing from that subject as I'm shooting. But sometimes there is a random leaf dropping in or a stick, or the creature's just so far away that even zoomed right in, I can only get, it quite small in the frame and I have to crop a bit of that out later or whatever it is. Remove distractions. Sometimes there's stuff that I just can't control. To fix colors and exposure. So it's always a general rule is it's a bit better to shoot everything a little bit darker to underexpose, because then you can bring the detail back if you have to, than to shoot it too bright where the detail is lost and it's never going to come back. Having said that, I do always try and shoot at adequate exposure. But again, sometimes mine are too bright, sometimes they're too dark. And to straighten the horizon, sometimes I get very excited and we're standing parallel and perpendicular, but I will tilt or shoot on an angle or not realize I'm not perfectly straight with the camera and I don't want a crooked horizon. And then to ensure that my print and online representations of those images is accurate. And my monitor helps me do all these things. My camera helps me get the picture at the front, and my BenQ monitor helps me put the picture out the end. So this is one of my photographs that did quite well in awards. It won probably about 20 awards all around the world. And it's a limited edition of 100 images only. And I think I'm up to about number 75 in sales. So I've sold 75. And this picture therefore has earned me probably about $80,000 from this one photo. It still has another $25,000 at least of print sales in it, and it's my only potential $100,000 image, but I have one which is like amazing. So you can imagine if people are paying good money for this photo, I don't want the colors to not come out how they're meant to appear. I want the vibrancy, I want that shine, and I want it to have that wow factor. I don't want someone to get it and go, oh, that's a bit flat. So every time this is represented somewhere or it's replicated, I want to make sure those colors are extremely accurate. And it's very important that when I'm editing, they are. Now, this photo, I might have just upped the contrast a tiny bit, maybe 2% saturation. This image is pretty much very close to out of camera. This was actually a breeding facility, very rustic breeding facility on Cocos Island. And these guys were actually growing on a piece of black mesh. And just down the bottom section, there was a tiny little cross of mesh that I've just cloned out, I photoshopped out. Apart from the very slight tweaks in the contrast and the color, like I mentioned, that's all I did to this photograph. But it has to print accurately when I'm printing it. So what do I use to edit? I use Adobe Bridge to select my images. Now, some people go straight for Lightroom. Again, lots of ways to do lots of things. And this is just what I've always used. And I'm a bit of a creature of habit. Like on that, I don't use a tripod because I'm not trained on a tripod. So when I see a bird flying by, I pick up the whole thing and I swing it, which is quite dangerous if other people are standing on the edge of the cliff. So like that, I just use Adobe Bridge. It's what I've always used. I use that to choose the images I'm going to open and then edit properly and fully in Photoshop. And in there, I use a Camera Raw built-in mechanism where I can tweak exposure, color, and things like that. I use Photoshop, so I open them in, select them in Adobe Bridge, open them in the Raw program there, and then they open up in Photoshop. And that's where I do cropping, cloning, coloring in, whatever I need to do in there to get it to look how I want. And I use my BenQ monitor to do that. So that monitor helps me see everything in that image. It helps me see all the colors. It helps me see the tones, the contrast, the depth of that photograph. And that I know when I save it, what I see on that screen is what I'm going to get in that print. There are no surprises. Now, I have an awesome PC. It costs $7,000. And I have an awesome laptop. It costs a couple of $1,000s. But they are not meant for photographers. They're not photography specific PCs and laptops. So the color output on those, say I do a photo that's got a bright pink flamingo, if I then print that, it will look dull. It won't look quite like how it looks on my screen. And that's why, therefore, I edit on my BenQ monitor, because I know that monitor is going to take away that problem for me. What I see is what I'm going to get. And I can't stress that enough. You know, we spend so much money on cameras and lenses, but if we don't also have something that is pushing these images out the other end through a monitor that is actually specific to what we need, the pictures aren't worth taking because they're not going to look right. You don't want a orange and brown line that has a blue color tinge to it that you haven't seen and you can't get rid of when you're printing. And BenQ is compatible. The monitors are compatible to PCs and Macs, so you can plug them into anything as a second screen. So my style of editing is, I call it simple. It's very basic. I am self-taught in editing like I am in taking photos. So again, sometimes people like to give me feedback and say, oh, that's not how I edit. I'm like, that's great. It's how I taught myself. And these are photographs that quite often I use to promote my business, or sometimes I sell as prints, and they work and people like them as they are. So therefore, I think my editing suits what I do. Being animals as well, we don't want to, change the integrity of the subject too much. So I've got down there, you don't want to change their integrity. If I've got a bird on a branch, I want that photo to be a bird on a branch. I'm not, I fully respect people that can creatively edit, but I don't want to Photoshop in a boat and an ocean in the background and, a ladybug running along with 6 caterpillars doing a handstand. It's just not the style of outcome I want. I don't want fantasy stuff out the other end. I don't kind of even want stuff that's too arty in my wildlife pictures. I just want it to represent that animal. And in that, when I'm shooting, I'm also trying to go for representing that animal in a fresh, new way, which is sometimes impossible. If we've seen a million photos of a kangaroo or a pelican, how do you photograph a kangaroo or a pelican in a fresh, new way that people haven't seen before? So I'm always trying to look for an angle or some sort of, have a new down low, up high, zoom in, zoom out, some sort of pose, expression, mannerism, to kind of try and capture something a bit different. But even then, I still want it to remain true to that animal. So when you look at it, you go, oh, that's a cool shot of a pelican. I learned through trial and error. So when I edit, I still do now. You know, it's not something that comes naturally to me. It's something that I do the very set 4 or 5 things I do in Photoshop, and that's it. And if I can tell I've done it, I wind it back a bit. And I think that's a really good thing to remember when you're editing. If you can see that you've done that edit to a point of not taking out a leaf and getting rid of a leaf, but if you're sharpening or you're increasing color saturation, the minute you can tell you've sharpened or increased the color saturation is the minute you need to dial it back a little bit to make sure it looks natural. And that's what I'm talking about integrity. I want the photos to look natural. I want them to be the right color. I want them to be of subjects that are out living their lives, especially if it's wildlife doing their own thing. And I don't want to be editing elements to make it look fake or weird. You know, I don't really convert photos to black and white very often. Sometimes I do. Very rarely though, do I? And you'll see, you know, if it's a cheetah in a tree, you'll see the tree coming from the bottom of the frame. I won't do like a white blurred out technique or anything where the trees just kind of appears. I kind of like it to be as I saw it when I was there. And I will always go for the easiest option to save time. That could also mean when I edit, I'm lazy in a good way. I'm lazy in that I don't want to spend 16 hours editing one photo. I don't have the time. It has to be a cracker of a shot for me to edit a photo for that long. And I think the most recent where I've put a bit of time into editing a photo was in Africa. There were 2 zebra dropped in front of us on the road. This was in July. I was in Tanzania, and they started rolling in the dust and kicking each other and having fun. And I was trying to Photoshop out the zebras above them and a bit of the bush on the side and some dirt and stuff. And in the end, I edited it so much it didn't look natural. It didn't look like the integrity of the scene. I should have just left all that stuff in. So, but I spent hours taking out all these things because I just wanted those zebras rolling, and you know, it didn't look great. So I normally go for the easiest option to save time. There's probably 1 in 1,000 photos I might spend a little bit more time on, but literally a minute, 2 minutes max, maybe on an edit. So I'll always be pretty quick. This is just a photograph that was, again, nearly straight out of camera. I might have cropped in a tiny bit on this, only a little bit, just maybe to get the shape of the head, fill the frame with most of the body. And it's probably just had a little bit of contrast run over it. And then I like to always think of my subject as if it was a person. So if this orangutan had a bit of straw coming out of his nose, I'd think, you know, if this orangutan saw that photo and had the comprehension to understand there was straw coming out of his nose, he might not like that. So anything like that is, if it's a photograph that's not being entered into a competition where there are rules about editing, so that's very important too. Always read the rules. A lot of wildlife photographs don't allow anything other than minor dust spot removal or, you know, very slight color correction or something. You can't remove elements, but these are just for my own personal use, these pictures. So actually this one was shot for the Perth Zoo. I would have taken out the bit of straw out of his nose or a bit of gunk in his eye or anything like that. I just kind of, you know, if there's bits of straw stuck on the fur, I might just take those out too. Unless the story in that photo is, hey, look at this orangutan covered in straw, then that's, you know, the story in itself. But I always just try and make sure the integrity of the subject is maintained in that way as well. So editing rules, there's no right or wrong. There's different ways to get the same result. And if you can tell it's been done, undo it so you can't. Do it a bit less, be a bit less heavy-handed. So I have an amazing friend who's an awesome photographer, and he does very creative images with visuals, text, bits of this here, bits of that there. And I said to him one day, how do you get that result? It's so arty. And he said, I just play. I just throw it on. If I like it, I keep it. If it looks too much, I take it off. And I kind of go with that a little bit too. So I'll have a go, I'll do something like the zebra's rolling. If it looks wrong, I'll wind it back a little bit and then perhaps go, okay, maybe I need to start that again, or I put in all that time. I'm very, what's the word, perfectionist about my photos and my editing. And so I think a photo for me is a fail if there's zebras rolling and there's other zebras in the background. Because, oh, distractions, it's not clear background. Well, it wasn't a clear environment. That is completely unrealistic in that setting. The fact that zebras did this behavior, which our guide had never seen before, in front of us together and were kicking each other and playing like dogs kind of play, upside down with their legs in the air, literally like that, you know, is pretty special on its own. So perhaps I need to just, you know, my own expectation needs to step back a bit and just appreciate I got this cracker shot that no one has seen. Because if I show people that photo, they're probably not even looking at those zebras in the background. They're just looking at those crazy zebras upside down. So in Photoshop, I only use a handful of tools. And the very simple, basic, probably entry-level tools for Photoshop. I use the crop tool, the clone tool, Dodge and burn, so that is to make pictures lighter or darker, so you can give them more contrast or less contrast, and you can make them lighter or darker in the highlights, the mid-tones, or the shadows. So you can make shadows darker or lighter, highlights darker or lighter. I use the color tool, which as a brush, so it's like a coloring in tool, I guess, and I use sharpen very minimally. Sometimes I use spot healing tool, not very often, and I use help section. So if I don't know how to do something, help section for me also extends to Photoshop, plus also Google, a great resource. If I don't know how to do a particular thing, how do I make, how do I, do this or remove that or edit this quickly or something? I'll go and watch a tutorial on Google or use the help section in Photoshop. And I'll just self-teach. I'll just follow the steps, pause the video, whatever it is, read the info, and try and follow that. If it is something a little bit more complex, how do you take zebras out of an image of zebras rolling that you don't want them in there? So I've just got a little demo here where everything is. So sharpen is under the filter menu, the crop button, coloring in tool is the paintbrush, clone is like the stamp, and dodge and burn is the hand. And when you select that, that is dodge, which is darken, and burn is also under there as well. It's a little icon. I'll show you that when we get going. And that's just to add or take away contrast. Now, those of you that do Photoshop are like, wow, is this it? This is really simple. I gave you the warning. It is. It's basic, but this is how I edit. Because again, I'm shooting stuff that is very true to its own, its own self when I take it in the camera. It's not too different. So I'm just going to escape out of this now and jump into Bridge. So this is Adobe Bridge. So in here, I've just loaded up a heap of random images, like I said. There are 103 photos in here. And I'm going to go through and just pick some out. So if this was an actual shoot I did, firstly, it would be a bit messed up because I've gone from a willy wagtail to then an elephant to an owl to a kangaroo. It's like, where is this place? It's amazing. Didn't have to go to Africa and Kangaroo Island and all around Western Australia to get these shots. But I'm just going to start. I'll start with this kangaroo. So I'd normally probably make these a little bit bigger. So I'll go a bit bigger so I can see them a bit bigger on my screen. Now, straight away, I can tell this kangaroo is green. That's what I was talking about color cast. It has a green color cast on it. These are all straight out of camera pictures, by the way. So that's green. Let's go this bird. I don't know if the bird's even in focus. Let's go this giraffe. Now, they both look too dark to me, and they probably are. Let's go this willy wagtail. That's a good one. I can show you some cool stuff with that. Maybe this one too. Oh, look, lots of zebras everywhere. My worst nightmare type of photo. But for that, I would just probably go with zebra butts, but there's two blurry butts dropping in, so I might not even select that. I might look in the series of those photos to see when these two zebras moved off down there in the bottom corner, and I just had a picture of butts as they were walking up the hill. Here we've got a zebra with, I think it's some sort of eland. I'm just going to keep looking until I can get one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pictures with them together, and then there's a zebra on its own and the eland on its own. So let's do the own ones, and I might also pick one. So I think this looks like the eland's in focus, the zebra's blurry. There's a hippo about to slide into the pool. Not that exciting, so I probably wouldn't pick that. Elephant running at another elephant. Just a couple of elephants having a fight. Let's go with them. So you can see, and to select these, I'm just pressing Control and my mouse. So I'm selecting multiple pictures at a time. Photoshop probably don't recommend it, but you can open about 100 photos all at once. They just all open up, and then I just edit, crop, save, go. And when I do a tour, I edit as I go because I shoot so much. So my Africa tour in July had some awesome people on that trip, and some of them are still putting out photos now because they came home and they waited and they got on with life and they're editing as they go. Nothing wrong with that. Because of the high volume that I shoot and the way I like to work, when I get home, I have to go back to work and photograph pets, and I'm busy, and I would never look at those photos again if I didn't edit them while I was on that trip. So if I shoot 5,000 photos a day, that evening, I'm up from after dinner, probably 9:30 till midnight, picking out of 5,000 photos, I might pick the best 100. I'll edit those out, and from those, the ones that would actually make it to social media where I show the best of the best might be two or three. And then from that whole trip, I might show, 10 photos publicly, and I'll show everyone on the actual tour the other 100. They have to sit and watch all of them. But I'm that picky. And also because I'm shooting on high bursts, like you can see here with this elephant series, and this was actually a mother elephant. She's the one that is turned around with the tusk in this middle photo here. She was the other one's her son, and she was kicking him out of the herd. There comes an age where elephants have to go and join a bachelor herd. He didn't want to go because he thought he was still a baby, and she's like, you have to go. So he was actually being charged out. Actually, I think he's got the tusks. She's this first one. She was shooing him away from everyone else and just sent him off on his own, and he had to go and join his herd. So there's a whole series of this. This went on for about 20 minutes. There's thousands of photos probably I took of this particular thing happening. And I think I put out publicly, 2, because I don't need to show people 15 photos of the same thing. I just need to shoot, and I shoot at high volume because there's lots of action, and I pick the best ones to put out at the end of that. Let's go with this bird because the bird is a bit green. I don't even know what that bird is. There's a lion. Right, what about one of these? Lion with some bright light and a tree coming out of the head. Great. Elephant tusk may or may not be blurry. Let's pick that up. And I'll go for one more. Let's see what's down here. Elephant with baby. So here, even this series here, 3 elephants together, the baby's kind of hidden. The trunk is on the back, so I know that's why I took it, but the baby's face is hidden and this elephant's legs dropping in. This one here I probably took because the baby is separate from the mum, so I was probably hoping to crop that separately. Then here's the baby with the mum. And there's 2 different babies. I like this photo because the trunk has that little curl. This one, it's stretching it out a little bit more, so I might go for that one. Then I'll pick one of these birds of prey shots down here. This is a good example. See, again, most of these, like, lucky for me, this photo barely needs anything done. It's literally straight out of camera, nice dark background. Let's go with one that's a bit of a mess that I can fix. You can see they're like coming out too bright, too dark. Let's go one of these emus because right now this photo is not something I could use. It needs work. And even these coming out super dark. Right, let's go with those. Now I'm going to right click. So I've selected them off. I've selected 18 photos there, and I'm going to click Open in Camera Raw. And this is the Camera Raw sliders are going to appear. There we go. And so each picture now I can adjust the color and the contrast, the brightness, etc., because these are all shot in RAW. So that gives me the ability to adjust them. So this one here is too green. So here's a slider that makes it green or pink. So it started off about here. So I'm going to make it a bit warmer, like into the pink colors. And then there's a blue and yellow slider as well. So you got to, like I said, do it till you can't tell you've done it. So kangaroos don't look blue like that, and they don't look yellow like that. So I'm going to go with, in my eye when I was there, this kangaroo is brown. So I'm going to go to where I think that's too much, whereas that's probably not too bad. And it might be, oh, it's too pink. I can drive it down a bit. I can make it darker, brighter with the exposure. But I think that's probably pretty good right there. This guy, bird on the stick, needs just exposure bumped up. So let's bump that up a bit without losing too much detail. That's when I went like that, I started to get all the blood of the bird poo on the branch. It's a little bit bright. So I'm going to drop it down a bit. I still find that I want that background to be a bit brighter, so I might go to, let's see if white's going to help with that at all without. Yeah, there he goes. And that's pretty true color, so that's not too bad. Giraffe, is he sharp? I don't know if it's sharp, but can't see the eye at all. Let's see if, without overdoing it, there we go. And it's a tiny catchlight in there, I think. It is, and I don't even think this picture is super sharp, but let's go with it because it serves our purpose. Willy Wagtail, he looks a bit dark, so let's lighten him up a bit. Without losing detail in these whites, but I'm trying to get some detail in the blacks as well. Let's just go about there. This guy on the perch, it's all a bit heavy and dark, and again green, because there's lots of green. That's a dust spot on my lens. Always good to get rid of those if you're entering competitions and things. He's also blinked here, so his eyes actually got the film membrane kind of over it. So I'd probably go back in this series and pick the next one or the one after, one before. Sorry, the next one or the one before. Find a photo where I was shooting that 10 shots of that bird doing the same thing. But I'm just going to increase the exposure a little bit, and I'm going to make it a bit warmer, make it a bit more yellow than kind of blue. And this photo too, lots of digital noise. You can see in there all this grain because this was shot at really high ISO, 12,800 ISO. When I was shooting this, it was actually really late afternoon and the light was fading. So I shoot it, and you can always run it through like Topaz Denoise, incredible program that strips out any digital noise. I don't really like this photo. I probably wouldn't do anything with it. I just think it's kind of boring. The elephant's eyes really dark. I can't see a catch light in it, which is one of the things I look for. But if I loved it and I want to keep it, I would firstly make it a bit brighter. So you go too far and you can just see it starts to look too washed out. So you've got to kind of keep a little bit of the contrast. And then I might just One of the problems we had in Africa is because this grass is actually like this color, everything was coming out there. The white stripes are kind of yellowy kind of color. So actually just toning it down to putting it back like that, that is not what this environment looked like. It was very much this color here, but it made it the colors of all the animals look kind of weird. So I'll always go with the animals, and it's still a natural grass color. I'm sure as it dies off, it may go like that. It dies off even more. Pretty dead there. I'm just going to lighten this up a bit, and again have a little play around. Okay, great. And I'll do some of these like this guy. I'll do these super quick. It's going to make him a bit brighter. So haven't really done much else other than exposure on that one. What's the charging elephant doing? This one, I might just add a little bit of contrast, drop the exposure a tiny bit. That's a good one to do. The fighting, great. They were not actually hurting each other, by the way. She's just pushing him. Like, you send your kid to bed. We don't push your child, but go to bed, like that, off you go, like that. But she was getting up in his face with the trunk saying, off you go. And he was like, I don't want to. And she sent him off. So tough love in that case. So this one, this bird was kind of like that, like kind of gray color, a bit blue. I'm going to warm it up a bit, and I'm just going to increase the exposure a little bit. Who else did we have? What's this guy? I've never even seen this photo before. So this is just overexposed. This is probably why I haven't seen it before. I probably did and I skipped it because the background's super messy. And the more I add exposure in, see how you can see more of that background appearing? When it was like that, kind of it's washed out. As soon as I bring that back in, you can kind of see more stuff in here. But that's not a bad photo of the bird, but just don't like the background. The lion, he's a bit orange. Again, it's the grass that was making everyone orange. So he's probably more about there. I can't do much about this, but I can show you a quick fix for that. Elephant, gray, I'm going to make him a bit brighter. Don't think he's actually sharp because he's probably moving. And might drop the grass down a bit. And cute little baby elephant, blade of grass right over the eye. And see, the baby's not sharp, but I think mum probably is, hopefully not. Mum maybe. So with that one, I'd probably again go to the series and pick the one before or after. But again, for the sake of what I was going to show you on this one, I'm going to keep it in. Just again, make it a bit brighter. And then lastly, the birds. This photo is straight out of camera. I'm going to make it a tiny bit brighter. Not going to touch anything else. This guy, way too overexposed. Be lucky if I can get detail in this beak. It's gone, but let's see if we drag our exposure down. Oh, look, it's coming back. But then I don't want this to be too dark where I can't see detail. So here I've got some shadow sliders. See, I can bring back it. If I do it like that, a bit too much. Let's just do it a little bit. There we go, so you can't quite tell. And this guy is definitely too dark. I think this is our last one. So I can just slide until I can see that detail and then make him a bit warmer. Right, now what I'm going to do, I've clicked on the end photo and the first photo, so they're all highlighted down here. Then I'm just going to hit open. We've got about 20 photos in here. I won't get to edit them all. Some are super simple. I might do the easy, quick ones first, just to show you what I would then do with these now they're opening up. So you can see by doing 100 pictures like that, if I've got 4 pictures of that sequence of the mum shooing the son away, the mother elephant, and they all look like kind of a bit washed out, I can actually select all 4 and do those sliders, and it does it to all 4 images at one time. So I can do it pretty quickly. So let's hope that Photoshop doesn't have a meltdown. You can see them all. So even though I'm like, this still might be a bit yellow, so I may go back and rework it from the start. But the branch looks good. That guy's not too bad. It might make it out the other end. Nice sky, great background, nothing dropping in there. Lots going on here. I think that was a canoe on an old purple tank or something, the wire, the white thing to the left. Here, lots of noise. This, like I said, this one would go in the bin. But I don't ever delete anything. I keep everything, just in case. You never know. When someone says, do you have a photo of a woolly wagtail blinking? Oh yeah, I do actually. Very grainy. But I keep everything just in case. But it wouldn't make it light of day for public consumption. So you guys don't tell anyone you saw that. With all that grain and a dust spot on it. In Africa, I tried not to change my lens at all. I shoot with a 150 to 500mm zoom, Tamron zoom lens on a Sony A1 camera. And I tried not to take it off. And there you can see why all that dust, it was very dusty. Plus they were doing burn-offs, deliberate burn-offs. This photo now feels a bit green to me. And with the burn-offs and the dust, we were just covered in, like we were breathing it in and we're covered in dust every day. So anyone that changed lenses got that stuff on their camera sensor, and that, made a lot of, or in their camera for the mirrors, and that made a lot of dust on spots on the pictures. So you don't want to kind of have that out the other end. This one, unfortunately, is blurry. I'll show you what I would do with it if it wasn't, because on that, I was clearly going for the tusk. And that one's got the grass over the baby's eye. but I can still show what I'll do with it. I don't like there's a green strip of grass in there because I find it distracting. I want it to all be all perfect, but that's what was there. So I love this because this is the easiest photo I could take as far as the background goes. The background was about probably 50 meters from where we were sitting, and it was just trees. It was on Kangaroo Island. This guy's eye is not quite sharp, but I might be able to save it. This background's just different. The same trees that other bird was behind, but for some reason in that instance, the bird came out really nicely exposed against the bit higher up dark background of the trees. Okay, so this one of the eagle. So first thing I do, go to my crop tool, and I either crop it, I usually do, 12 by 8 or 8 by 10, either a long skinny rectangle like this actual shape is here, or a fatter rectangle. Let's keep it in with the way the picture's been taken. So a 12 by 8 crop is exactly what this picture is, right? Now, all I do for this is I just crop, I'd bring it in. You can generally ditch about a third of the image quite comfortably because most of us are using cameras that have pretty big megapixel files coming out the other end, especially the Sony A1. This is probably a 55 megapixel file. If you're shooting on an 18 megapixel or more camera, you should have enough megapixels to kind of play with. And what I'd do here is I'd come up, because see how this bit of wing down here is going off on the side. So I don't want to leave that in because it kind of makes you think, oh, what's down there? I don't want anyone to even know that's down there. So I'd go up to there. And then I might, because the bird's kind of slightly leaning that way, I might move everything that side. And I love like negative space, and I love offset stuff. So I might go, without going in too close, leave a bit of this. That's probably, ditch out that third, keep the rest. And that would probably be my picture. Now I could go to my dodge and burn tool there. Dodge looks like a lollipop, and burn. So dodge brightens everything and burn darkens. So I've got burn set to shadows up here at 10% opacity. So I'll show you if I have it at 100% burn darkness and I go over the pupils in the eye, I'm going to hold down my mouse and just kind of look at that. Like, well, remember, if you can tell you've done it, that's terrible. You need to undo it. So I just click undo. So I'm going to make this 10% because I don't want it to be too heavy-handed, and I just want to darken the pupil a tiny bit. I can make this circle smaller and just go on the pupil like that. This doesn't even need it done, but I could go over like these little lines in here, and it'll just make these little lines a bit darker. Anywhere there's a shadow, it's going to darken for me. Likewise, if I wanted to bring a bit more back in this neck, just did a line there. Look. I want to bring a bit more back in this neck area, I can click on that and go dodge. Dodge the shadows, means lighten, 8%. And I can just do a couple of runs here. You gotta make sure it doesn't make it sometimes makes stuff a little bit red. And if I zoom in, you should be able to see this is, I do a lot of it so you can tell, this is getting lighter. So it's bringing it back, and you can kind of do that. And then I always zoom in. Can I tell I've done it? What does it look? There you go, it's showing it before and after there. It looks to me a little bit weird. I can see kind of like almost a light little rainbow upside down shape there. So I would probably undo that a little bit and just do a tiny bit in there. And that's probably all I'd do for that photo. I'd then just save it. I save them as high-res JPEGs. I can upsize it from there. I can downsize it, make it bigger or smaller. I can print from it, and it's pretty much good to go. That was an easy one. This guy, I'd go to the burn tool and straight away make my brush a bit bigger up here. Still on 10%, a bit bigger than that as well. I'm just gonna, this is a quick way to do it. Put that pupil back in a little bit. And I'd be like, I don't know if this one I'd keep it. But if I did, this is part of a person, it's part of the handler. So for this one, I might just crop, and I might just take that person out. I might do the fat crop for this 8 by 10, because what I want to do is want more space in front than behind, because the bird's looking this way. And when I did it as a long rectangle, there was kind of equal space. The bird was in the middle, which looks weird when you need space kind of to look into. Now I'm going to show you another little trick that I use. If you don't like this brown color, see this is all green, lovely kind of circles that all match, and then like it's got some brown. So what I do is I go to the coloring in tool, and this is where everyone goes, what, you do what? Okay, so I get a fairly big size brush. Yeah, it's pretty big. And I'm going to make it the opacity, because right now I'm going to pick this green color here. So I'm going to hold down Alt and click. Okay, so now it shows here, over here on the left-hand side, that I've got green on my pen. This is my little paintbrush, and that's the green. If at 100% opacity I color it in, oh, it looks a bit fake and look colored in half the bird. Not good. So instead, I'm going to make it 22%. And I'm just going to color. I'm just using the mouse to click, coloring over that. Now let's go and put a bit of this light creamy color in here, and maybe a bit of this dark green in there. And you would never know that I did that. I didn't go too close to the feathers because I didn't want to make them green, but you'd never know that had been done. That's one of the things I do. If you then like, so this is where you've got to stop at some point too. So now I look at this and I go, oh no, now there's a dark spot here. This is what it's like to be in my brain. It's really annoying sometimes. I'm like, this is a bit dark. Let's go to a light green. Let's pick down here. And now I want to just get rid of that dark bit. And I go, oh no, I don't like these white bits. And it just goes on. But you know, this is a pretty quick way to kind of get rid of them. I wouldn't worry about these white bits, these kind of orangey white bits. I think they work fine. But that you'd not actually know that I've done that at all. Again, you can clone that out. There's a number of different ways you can get it out, but that looks really nice. What I'm going for is I don't want people to look in the background. Don't want them to go to the white bright bit or the black bit or the brown bit. I want them to go to the bird. The owl. This is excellent. Here's a white smudgy thing. So again, using that technique that I was just doing, I can just color that in, or I can just go to the clone tool, clone stamp, get a big brush, select this color, select this bit here, and you'll see as I put whatever is under that cross gets replicated under the circle. So if I put the cross on the bird's eye, and now go here, you'll see the cross, it's replicating whatever's under the cross. This is what this tool does. So I'm just picking this color and I'm just coloring in as per the color that's right next to it. So now that white thing has pretty much gone. That's another way you can do it. And I'm now going to crop this. Now this is a very long skinny shape. So I'll go back to the 8x12, 12x8 shape. And I would just pretty much, again, put him to the left-hand side because I like the space, more space to look into than behind. That's pretty much it. That's a great photo to use or to take, because I don't have to do anything. But can I be really honest? Very rarely is that as simple as that has to be for me. There's always something that I need to fiddle with or take out. I could have also, of course, if I just go back, the other thing I could have done is just cropped out that smudge. I don't have to keep it in. I could just go to here and, you know, make everything a bit smaller and go like that. And then there's only a tiny bit of it in the corner, if at all, yeah, in there. So I could have done that too if I was being super lazy and go just get rid of it like that. But there's always normally more for me to do. So in this one, first thing, if I kept this is, again, pedantic. I don't like the black coming out the back of the elephant's body. I mean, insane. Who is even, I bet you guys like we didn't even see that because no one would, but it's just what my brain tells me. So I'm going to click over here. I'm doing the clone stamp. So you'll see as I now color, the little plus sign, whatever's under there is being colored in over here. And that's now, okay, that's gone. And I can live with this green line coming out of there. I can live with that. That's great. This photo, though, also needs a bit of a straighten. So I would select the scene. I don't have much room to play with here and up here. I don't want to like, this is me just turning, you know, selecting it with the crop tool and turning it to straighten it. I don't have a lot of room to play with. So I want to make sure I've still got like that. So I'm trying to line up like this grass with this, you know, grass with the line across here, or you know, some line on there to make sure it feels a bit straighter. Now click that. Let's see, that feels a bit better. And then I might just on that one again go to my burn tool. I'm going to do the shadows at 10% shadows, and normally what I do with the burn tool, I add contrast. And if I make this big, you can see blurry elephant. Don't tell anyone. You can see that it's just adding some contrast, and that's all I do. You know, again, I don't like that there's stuff in here. And I think I did actually show one of these photos to the public. I put it out, but there's stuff in here like I don't like these sticks. What can you do? It's the environment. That's when you just got to know, you know, turn that voice off in your head that says, you know, that picture's not good enough because it's got grass in it. This elephant photo, I've got the crop tool. I would just go like this. I'd probably take out the eye since I kind of missed it because we all know elephant has an eye. I'd just go full abstract maybe. I might even ditch out the ear. Ditch that third, and I might just make it like that, arty like that. And then I'm like, okay, I don't like the grass touching the trunk down the bottom. So I'd zoom in, I'd go to my clone stamp, make the little clone tool quite small, probably even smaller than this, and I'll select this bit here and clone that over there. I'm going to select this bit of the trunk bump and put the bump back in here if I can. Yeah, there you go. And now I'm just going to go to here and clone this out. Now the key now is to make sure that if you enter this in any competition where you can actually edit photos, the judge can't see what you've done. So I judge a lot of photo comps, and what I'm looking for is repeated pattern. I can't quite pick it up on that, but when I did clone the bump, I could see a little bit of grass that from where I cloned from was also repeated. And you want to make sure, you know, so if you're like taking this and putting it all up here, see how that grass sticking up there is now repeated. Let me go on this. So that bit of grass there, there, and there, and straight away a judge will pick up, oh, you've photoshopped, see, it's repetitive, you've photoshopped that. So that's where you want to make sure that they can't tell what you've done. So you want to make sure. So to get around that, make it really big. Oh, it's very nice and blurry. How do you photograph an animal that weighs 2 tons with a zoom lens, which is probably not very far away from you, and make it blurry? That is a very special skill I have. So I just also want to show you guys that everyone takes blurry photo. If anyone's a pro and they tell you they don't, you know, they're lying. Even if they're a landscape photographer, the tree will move and it will be blurry or something, you know. But this thing was right here in front of me. It weighs 2 tons, and I still managed to get a blurry shot. And it wasn't rampaging. It wasn't racing past. It just was the vehicle moving when we were driving? Was I moving? Was I breathing too hard? Like, anything can happen to make a photo blurry. Was there dust in the way? Well, they're just not paying attention. They're not timing it right. Okay, so that's now gone again. And that is probably where I'd leave it. I could do a bit of contrast if I want to. Just, again, I'm using the burn tool, see, darken it up a tiny bit in the shadows, and leave it like that. I wouldn't do too much more to it. This guy would need quite a lot of work. I would have to decide this was a cracker photo, because I would want all this gone, just because it just sets off my photo perfectionist nature. So firstly, I would try to get rid of this fur here that's very bright, because the first thing I noticed down here is a bit of fur on a foot, and I notice all this stuff as well, and then I go over here, and to me this is just a nightmare. I'll still take the photo because I'll think maybe I can use it later for something. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the clone tool, and instead of making 100% opacity, so instead of going, I want this background at 100% colored in here, I'm going to make it 30%, and I'm going to grab the hair from here, and it's going to replicate it. It's going to clone it over the top of this little space where it's a bit bright, but only at 30%. Now see, it's kind of also coming out a little bit gray. Can you see that? It's like it's coming out a bit gray. That's because it's at 30%. It's not at full color resolution, so it's coming out a bit gray, but getting there. But it looks like he's had a kind of some stripes put in his hair, but at least it's a little bit less noticeable. And now I might just keep going. Then the more I keep going, the more I'm actually ending up making it 100% kind of the opacity at the end of the day, because I'm going over it so many times. And then I'll go back out to say, can you tell I've done that? Not really, but it doesn't look great. I probably wouldn't do too much with this picture. Now I'm just trying to blend it in to make it look a bit more natural, if I can. And then I might get some hair from in here. And this is going to be going in a different direction, but at 30% opacity, hopefully won't be able to tell. I'm going to make the brush smaller, grab this hair here, and now go along the ear line, because you can see there's the white fringing along there, and I want to get rid of that. Like that. And notice I keep zooming out, because when you zoom out, it's when you can see, can I tell? Now that's a lot better than it was. I can probably, for the sake of what we're doing today, leave it there, but you would not actually look at this photo unless I said this bit of hair here is slightly, you know, gray, and it was this bit matched on top. You probably wouldn't know that unless I told you. But I'm going to go now to the burn tool, so the contrast tool, and I'm going to add, not too much, but just add in a little bit spots of contrast so it looks a bit more like other bits of fur. Don't know if that's quite achieved the effect, but you get the idea. You can see what I'm kind of trying to do. So it's certainly not blown out and white anymore. Now, my first go-to for this, because I'd be in a hurry and I'd be like, I just want to get out of this what I want, would be to do this. All right, now has this photo got enough in it for me to just do a big whacking head shot? Maybe. Now, if I kept it like that, it's pretty sharp. I noticed that this bit here is lighter than everywhere else. So I go up there, and I notice the straw. So I'm like, okay, let's take care of those. So I get my clone tool, and we're still on 30%, 31% we're on. And I'm just taking these bits of hair, and I'm just filling this in a little bit so that you can't tell that's too bright anymore. There you go. Now I might go, I'm on my clone tool still. I'm going to go to 100% to get rid of the straw. And I'm going to select the fur here and get rid of this. Now I'd probably do this normally with a smaller clone tool, but you get the idea. So I'm just selecting that bit near it and then cloning that. Gone. And now go to my burn tool. So you can see I'm just using the same things over again. And I'm just going to make the pupil a bit darker. If I zoom in on, look at all the flies on his nose. 1, 2, about 15. If I zoom in, I'm going to make my tool really small. My little burn circle. There we go. And I might make this a bit darker. It's got his good eye makeup on. And you watch the color of this one, or the contrast of this one as I do this. It gets darker, nice and dark. And I might just do his little whiskers, put some contrast on those. And then I go back to check. How's that look? So see how the eyes now really pop? And that's probably all I'd do. I could even crop in a bit more if I didn't like this. Oh, there's a bit of green showing. Oh my goodness. You know, that's the sort of stuff I just hate. I think I did actually edit this photo. Oh, that looked terrible if I did there. I was just trying to clone out this little corner bit. At some point you've got to stop, you know, that's a great, there's nothing wrong with that shot. I may, if I was being super lazy, I want to do it super quick, make my clone tool really big. Sorry, my burn tool down here, this little fist, the burn. I'm on 10% to darken the shadows and just give him up once around the edges. See how he's getting slightly darker? Maybe just give him a bit of contrast. You want to make sure you can't tell you've done that. You don't want to do that. You can tell that you've done that. It's over contrasted. It's over burnt. We call it. It's the dodging and the burning. So that would be probably quite a good spot. He's also got drool coming out. These guys were watching. The two brother lions were watching something, and a herd of elephants came and shooed them away. In the Serengeti, elephants, or in Africa, elephants are king. Everyone's terrified of the elephants, even the lions, and chased them away. This picture to me would be a lost cause. I've just cropped it. And then I'm like, I'd probably get, if I really loved, if say this bird had never been seen before, and this is the only photo of it, and I was people wanted it for something, and I was allowed to edit it. Going to my coloring in tool, I'm going to maybe 56% opacity because I want to do it quickly. Picking a color in, and so watch what happens to the background. I'm just doing circles and coloring in some bits of this dreadful background. Now I'm going to pick this kind of very pale orangey brown color. Some circles of that dropped in. Now pick this color here. Do some of that near the head, up there. Get rid of that white bit. And if I'm going too close to the feathers, I'd make this circle smaller. You wouldn't like, you'd go a bit littler and you get rid of this gray bit like that by doing that. And you just want to check the edge of the feather line to make sure you're not coloring the bird gray or white or whatever color. Pick that color, put a bit in over there. And it's got to kind of blend from somewhere. So I'm just letting it kind of blend from down here. A bit of blend, there you go. And like, to be honest, you wouldn't actually generally be able to tell that that background had been blended out. It may be a competition judge might or something when they're looking at it really carefully, but for what you want, if you just want to put it on social media, or you're like, look at this cool bird no one else has ever seen before, done. I was in Africa 4 years ago and actually saw a white zebra. So zebras are white and have black stripes. This zebra was black and had what was like an albino. It was white, wasn't black and had white stripes. It was white with like kind of pale white stripes, and it had only been seen once before by a National Geographic photographer that happened, and we were just photographing it. Oh, look at that cool zebra. And then someone saw one of the pictures and was like, do you know what that even is? And we're like, it's just a cool zebra. And they're like, no one's seen that. Only 10 people in the world have seen it. And we had these same photos of it standing at the front of a line of zebras. This picture, I would just do a straight crop. Again, because if the file size is big enough, I don't want any of this color stuff in here. So I'd probably just do a straight crop. But if I got a bit of this in here like that, and I'm like, darn, I got a bit of that green there. Again, this time I'd color in the background at 100% opacity because this background's fairly even color. So I'd select the color from there, just color it in, and I'll keep selecting right near the, just keep selecting the color in case the color is slightly changing. Then when I get down to here, going to my clone tool, and I'm going to grab a bit of this, maybe this bit here, and I'm going to clone the edge and go up. So you can see where it's taking it from, that little cross. Oop, went too far. Can actually fix that. Went back a bit and I cloned it. I'll put that back in. Right, and then I'd get the coloring tool again and I'd go over where I just make it a bit smaller, where I just cloned that because I can see like different colored coloring in marks and shadows and stuff. So then just take that, gone. And then you'd never know that that bit was there. So it'll flash up and it's gone. And just color that in. All gone. That was a pretty easy one. They had a lot of rain fade. These guys, it'd be straight crop. Now, I can't get rid of the road. I'm going to go the 12:8 because it's a long, their body shape in this shot is long. So I'd go the long crop like this and pretty much just crop them like that. Maybe a bit of contrast with the burn tool. Done. And we'll do a couple more before we run out of time. Time flies. We will be doing more of these workshops in the new year as well. And yeah, if you guys like this format, I can edit all day. So if you like to see how it's done, please let us know. So this is a straight crop, but there, look, I don't like that the mountain range just ended. So I'm just going to get my, again, maybe my coloring in tool for that, or my clone tool, make it look even more authentic, like mountain pattern. Grab a bit of mountain pattern from here and just put it up there, and then make sure, grab this bit and go over the top, grab that bit. So you can't tell I repeated that pattern. And that would be it. Let me just do one more before Dita jumps back on. That would just be a crop. That would be a crop too. This is a great one. I'll do this one as my final because it's kind of cool. This would just be a crop. So I'll put the bird where I want it to be. Okay, so straight away I got rid of most of that background, yucky background. And then guess what? Coloring in tool, big brush, 47% opacity. Let's try that because I want to make sure I can get rid of this pretty quickly. Color, 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 pick this color here, color, color, color. And then even if I want to even out down here, pick this light color, just coloring it in, but going in circles and splotches. So it's not just an, one block color all over the place, which looks fake, there you go. And that's probably it. That's as simple as it can be. I'm just going to quickly jump back into my PowerPoint. I've got a couple of slides at the end. That was very fast. Time flies, that just flew through. But I'm just, if you have any questions on any of this, please send me a message and I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have a Facebook group for business coaching for photographers and creatives in small business. So if anyone's keen, it's also stuff for like how to use Facebook, different social media tips. There's some editing stuff in there. So here's where you can jump in there. If anyone wants to join, please feel free. And I have a little tour group as well, a Facebook group, which you're more than welcome to join. It's where I post all my tours. Next year's 3 tours already fully booked. Following year, 2025, I've got Costa Rica, and 2026, I've got Madagascar. Tours are a lot of fun. And I'd just like to thank BenQ. It says special mention to Grace. It's not actually Grace, it's Adita. It's my nickname for him. No. Sorry, my friend. That was my cut and paste file. But thank you so much to BenQ for putting this webinar on and for providing me with creating these amazing tools for us to use to get our photos right, which is really important. And here's where you can find me as well. And if you need any of that other info on those groups, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Alex. If you guys have any questions, you can either put them now. The floor is open for questions, or this recording is being recorded and will be uploaded on YouTube very shortly and sent to you individually. Or if you have any other questions, you can obviously email Alex or email us at bqaumarcom@benq.com, or individually email me at aditya.sharma@benq.com. Looks like we do have one question. Someone saying miss the Facebook group. Can you please say that again?
I sure can. This is the downtours. This is the tours one. This is probably the most interesting one out of the two if you're not into business, the business side of things. So this is what the tours are. Tours, photo breaks, workshops. I run them all around the world and a lot of them in Western Australia and some around Australia. And yeah, next year, like I said, I've got 3 tours, but they're booked out. This year I did 13 tours in 10 months, so it's pretty hectic. Next year I've got 3. But I normally do 3 to 5 tours every year. And all the photos I showed you in this presentation were taken, as I said, on the Tanzania tour, Kangaroo Island photo tour, or Dwelling Up, which is just a town about 2 hours south of Perth. That's where the willy wagtails and some of the kangaroos were. And in case anyone did need that one, that was the other one as well. There's some tips in there on all sorts of things. I have some friends in there that are just interested in, technology. There's tech stuff, things on, backing up your images, a lot of stuff like that. It's not all high-end business stuff. It's kind of something for everyone in that group. And there's certainly something for everyone in the tour group as well. But yeah, if you have any tips on basic editing, please let me know. And like I said, we're going to run more of these next year, and we may even do another one of the formats which has worked really well before, is where you guys send your images in and I tell you what I see and how I would fix them as well, and tweak them, not necessarily fix them. Sometimes the photos don't need anything done. I like those ones. But it's nice for you guys to know too that you're on the right track and you don't need something small done or nothing at all to bring it up to the next level.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We will conclude our webinar here. As again, the recording would be sent to you individually as well, and I'll be uploading it on YouTube. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.